Welcome to the Real Estate Investor Podcast. I have a special guest today, Mr. Chris Eymann. Super honored to have you here. I first heard you speak in Puerto Rico at the Jerry Norton convention out there with Vina Jetty, Pace Morby, and I was just super impressed with Chris, how humble of a guy he was, and also how all of those looked up to you as somewhat of a godfather, a legend, and an icon, especially out in the Phoenix market with over 20 years in real estate. So I'm really honored to have you on here and just hear a little bit more about your story and maybe peel back the curtain a little bit on what's worked for you in your career. And obviously, we know business isn't easy and real estate especially isn't. So just look forward to hearing more about what your journey has been like. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So tell me about what's your background? Where'd you get started? How'd you get turned onto real estate?
Yeah, so I don't have this cool, I just took action and I didn't. So before the financial crisis, there was another downturn 7 years before that called the dot-com bubble, right? So some of the viewers might not know what that is because they've only been in real estate, post financial crisis. I graduated from college, double major maths, computer science. So just went into, obviously, dot-com's going crazy. So plenty of IT jobs. That's where I started out, got laid off a couple times. And, after the second layoff, I was like, let me just go get my real estate license because I didn't know if I was selling my house. Like, if you don't have a job, you can't afford a house, right? So went and got my real estate license just on the thought that I was going to save the commission on selling the house, right? I mean, it was a $350,000 house, saving 10 grand. I'll go take a $500 class, or I think it was $500 at the time to save 10 grand. So that was kind of how I got started. And then after my layoff, a couple of weeks later, I got another job. I was actually working for Phillips Petroleum. Most people don't know this. I don't know if this is true today, but at the time, Phillips Petroleum was responsible for all the lottery tickets in the United States. That's where their database handled all the tickets, all the Powerball, all the sales of the tickets, everything. And I was the database administrator responsible for the lottery systems. So, decent job. Again, I was just a consultant managing, Phillips Petroleum, all their oil stuff and all that is all on Oracle servers. They just happen to have the lottery system just happened to be on these Microsoft SQL servers, and they had all these DBAs for their Oracle servers, and they needed one guy for the Microsoft stuff, and I was.
No way.
Yeah.
So this was after you got your license, or this was before?
So I took between the first layoff and the Phillips Petroleum job, I took the crash course, did the 90 hours in 2 weeks, and like I said, and then from there I got a listing from just someone in that sphere. And got a listing for like 300 grand, put it up, sold it in a couple weeks, made 3 grand, and then drove this lady around for 5 weeks. My wife's parents lived in Sedona. Just on week 5, we're going to visit my wife's parents in Sedona, which is, 150 miles north of here ish. And the lady calls and said, "Hey, you're out of town. I just called the agent off the sign. They showed me the house." And then I'm like, never dealing with the buyer again.
Wow.
So, yeah.
A learning experience.
Yeah. So those are my intros into real estate. But after the second layoff, I was like, hey, I'm not really interested in having people tell me when I can work and when I can't work. So then I was moving towards, and then I sold the house. I got a listing, and then I'm like, okay, how do I make my own listings? And, I was like, all right, I can buy houses at the foreclosure sale, fix them up, sell them, list them myself, and then I'll get the listing money. And there should be a little bit of a profit there too. And then I'll just do that. And so the first layoff was in July, did the 2 weeks, started studying foreclosures, call it August, bought my first foreclosure in December 21st. So any of you new guys out there, it took me, call it August 1st through December 21st, 0 deals.
Yeah.
So
reality.
It's just, and I didn't have a coach or a guru there was none of that. It didn't exist. So it's just learning on my own and, doing all that. So
no YouTube, no Instagram, no courses, no mentorships.
Yeah. 0.
So how much, let me just back up. So when you took your when you went to real estate school, how much did you learn in there to prepare you to be a real estate investor?
No, it's just a nothing. It's, real estate exam is a small math portion of the test, maybe 10 to 15%. And then it's just a big vocabulary test, right? That's all it is.
So do you feel like you were set up for success after that, or you were just thrown out into the world?
No, you had nothing. You just like, I obviously I went to Keller Williams. So they were, I got stuck on a team. So they were taking 10%, not a lot, but at least I had some tools. I could ask some questions of a team leader, that kind of stuff to
Right.
get me through that first transaction. But once I realized, I bought the first house December 21st, fixed it up, sold it in early March, bought a couple more in January, fixed them up, sold it, had them. I mean, obviously you're going into the spring season, so stuff started moving. All three closings are happening in March, and I'm like getting a little somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000. And I'm like,
Wow.
and I just so you know, I only started with, I took a home equity line of credit for 60, and I'm like, hey, I just took 60 and made it to 60 or 70. I like doubled my money. I'm like, if I could just take this 60 and make 60, every 3 months, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need more than
Now, I
that.
was going to ask you where you came up with the capital to buy those foreclosures, flip them, relist them, and you're able to double dip. So you're getting the listing agent commission, you're getting the gap between the buyer and the work you did. So you're double dipping now. You're making way more.
Yeah. So yeah, and it was great. Like I said, I made 60 to 70 grand. I like literally put in my 2 weeks notice. I was making $100 an hour for Phillips Petroleum. So I mean, it's $4,000 a week. It's you know
Yeah.
to say no to $4,000 a week is
And what year was this? This was like
and
22 years ago, right?
this
20
is
years?
2000.
2000.
When I quit my job in 2000.
So when you queued into the whole foreclosure thing, did someone tell you about that, or was it just an idea you had? How'd you even end up down there?
So honestly, my cousin found this website, Buy Easy Foreclosures. It was one of the bigger buyers at the time, and he would he was the first one with an email distribution database. He'd literally buy them at the foreclosure and send them out on a wholesale basis the next day. And he built a list, and people would subscribe, and he would, he advertised to all the agents in town. There was an agent magazine. Like, this is before, I mean, this is where magazines are still in place, right? And he
Right.
had the back cover of the magazine. Anyway, he was also my hard money lender. I was putting 10% down. So the first property I bought was 120,000. So I put 12 grand of that 60 down, I mean, I was using credit cards a lot for the rehab because you could put the Home Depot stuff on the rehab and all that. And so I had to pay down payment and interest payment. Like I said, I tried to put everything. Obviously, you can't pay the painter on the credit card, but like doing as much
Right.
as I could to,
Yeah.
you know.
So did you
So,
build a small flipping team at that point, or were you doing it yourself, or bringing in friends and family? Did you have any systems, or were you just like winging it at that point?
I mean, I had the systems on like tracking the foreclosures and going down there. And then, like I said, I started going down there in August, and I just watched, and they're probably like, who is this dude keep showing up every single day? I was there every single day. I was like tracking, okay, this property address, what did it sell for? Then I figured out where you get the list. And then I had the list, and then I found out where the websites were to see where the opening bids on the list were. I mean, it's just a process and then I bought my first one. I bought it in a 55 plus, see how much I knew about that. I was like, yeah, it was 55 plus, but I bought it in December, which is good because that's when they buy.
So it still worked out on
Yeah.
that one. So it seems like you were reverse engineering this thing. That's maybe how your brain works. You were figuring it out.
Yeah. Just, plugging along, and, but it does, the whole take action thing does work. I mean, I'd been down there for 5 months and learning. And it took taking action, and, I didn't win big. I probably made, in those first three, I made, 20 a house. So that's not bad, but that's, yeah, I was like, hey, all right, now I've now proven the model. And, and then I just started networking. I was at every networking event. My kids probably, when they sit around, they're probably like, yeah, dad was always gone, because I was at every networking event. I didn't get home till 6. If there was a 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock happy hour, whether it's Keller Williams, Realty Executives, whoever, title company, I was there. or a
Right.
lunch and learn, I was there. Like, and then it was just like, yeah, I buy at foreclosure sales. Like nobody buys foreclosure sales. There's like 4 dudes that control the whole thing. I'm like, well, I buy foreclosure sales. And then I was probably a wholesaler by, I sold those in March. I was a wholesaler by July or August. I'd buy 123 Main Street. I had 20, 25 people. I'd just say, hey, I bought 132 Main Street for $100,000. You can have it for 103. I'll assign my rights to you. You go pay for it. I can line you up with hard money if you need to. Bring the $3,000 in cash. That's how I'd prefer to be paid.
I love it.
And
You,
yeah,
you had every angle covered.
yeah. And then obviously I wasn't a perfect wholesaler. I still had my hard money. I still had my connection with the hard money guy. And if I didn't wholesale that one, I'd take it down, put it in the rehab. And, but I wouldn't miss on many. I'd wholesale 9 out of 10, keep one for the rehab. But my average markup wasn't a lot. I was just trying to get in.
Mm-hmm.
I was making, call it $3,000 a deal, but I was doing 8 to 10 a month, and then throw the rehab on top of it. So, I mean, I moved quickly to pretty good living.
And so those were just all from foreclosures though at the time. Wow.
So that was kind of like, I'm in a mastermind now, and I got in the mastermind just because I was a foreclosure guy from 99 to 17. Like it was just a numbers game. It was, here's the house. I can drive by it. I can't even get the Dropbox and all the pictures that everybody else has these days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving by, I'm checking title. There is no title insurance. So you got to make sure you check title. And, if it's vacant, obviously I'm jumping the fence and going through the back door if it's open and all that stuff. But, if it's occupied, you can knock on the door, but they're probably not going to answer. Right. I wasn't afraid to knock on the door though. I was like, I don't knock it. I mean, they're just people.
So tell me more about that. So from 2017, that's been your jam basically. So how has that business evolved then from the beginning year, the first year, second year to 2017? How did that evolve?
Yeah, no. So it was just, I was just, kind of solopreneur cruising along, met this other guy named Eric. You became partners. You fast forward. And then I got a gentleman that said, hey, quit borrowing this dude's money at 18%. I'll give you my money at 12. You can lend it out at 18%. And then now I'm a hard money lender, right? Wow. So, and he's like, I just want my 12% return. Anyway, the guy that had built that website and Eric and I sat down for lunch. And he's like, hey, sounds like you found some money, because I was borrowing money from him. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you found some money. How much money do you have access to? And I'm like, like 10 million. And he's like, well, why don't we just take your guys' business? You bring in your capital guy. We'll put it all together. He had the website, the database, a lot of buyers in his database. And then, the 3 of us started a hard money company, got a $25 million line of credit at first, then got a $100 million line of credit, and then saw the financial crisis wipe it all away.
Oh, man. I remember hearing this story. Do you want to get into it a little bit?
Yeah, it was just, we had $80 million out in hard money loans, and hard money loans are, you just give the keys back, right? Prices are plummeting. I mean, basically what happened is, I don't know if you've heard this story. We actually had the company sold under contract, closing. We went under contract in May. We're closing like August 30th for $44 million. I'm a 25% owner. Wow. And the secondary market quit buying paper on July 31st, which means, a broker originates a loan. He goes and needs to package it up and sell it. Well, there's no buyers because everybody's shutting down. Lehman Brothers, all the big buyers are, if you've watched The Big Short, you heard about all these tranches, right? No more tranches, no more sales.
Wow. So it just slipped through your fingertips.
Yeah. I mean, 30 days from getting us 44. Now I was getting cash and stocks. So the stocks wouldn't have been worth nothing, but I'd have gotten the cash up front, and I'd have been able to take some of that cash. And, instead I ended up with a $4.5 million loss. I was also getting my equity back. So I lost all the equity I had in the company. So,
wow.
just having the equity back, having the $4.5 million and a little bit of cash I was getting from the sale, I think it was like $2 million. And I had $6.5 million entering the biggest housing crisis. I mean, where that would be today is, I think it would go to, it'd be around 70 to 80.
Wow.
if I'd have bought, houses in Phoenix. I mean, houses in Phoenix went to like 30 grand that are now 400.
Wild. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Crazy.
remember out here in California, we were renting back then, and yeah, houses were about at 50% of what they
Yeah.
are now, even less. And we wanted to buy. We weren't in real estate, but
Yeah.
and yeah, we didn't end up buying back then. But the house we were renting, I think it's worth 1.2 at the time. They were trying to sell it for 450, and it wouldn't even sell.
Yeah. There you go.
So you got caught with a bunch of hard money outs. How'd you solve that? What happened with that?
So honestly, I personally lost $4.5 million of my own money, and Wells Fargo on that line of credit, we had the line of credit with Wells Fargo. They lost like 6. So I was like, and then so I'm just one partner. All my other partners lost money too. So we did a little asset management and, help, take back properties, help foreclose on the properties, drive the properties, all that kind of stuff. And I negotiated my way out of my personal guarantee, gave them pennies on the dollar for, some of the bad debt. Didn't file bankruptcy. I had about $1.5 million of friends and family money that got lost too. So it took me from like '07 to 2015 to pay all that.
Wow. Paid it all
Paid,
back.
paid it all back.
Made everyone whole. Yeah.
Made everyone whole. I said, hey, no more interest. Interest clicker is done, but I'll give you your principal.
Wow. That shows a lot about your character and integrity.
And I did it the right way. My dad was one of those guys. And so he got his principal, but he got his principal last. So like it shows like I'm not favoring my father. Like, I'm
Right.
I'm paying people back pretty much as I paid them back as the least relationship I had got paid back first. And then the longer relationships that like were like, hey, he's going to pay me, just going to take him some time, paid
Right.
them, further down the road.
Well, and that's business and that's investing. There's always risk.
Yeah. And, I could have probably did it a little different. I was young. This is 17 years ago. So it's just like,
Right.
I was spending all the money. I didn't have any savings. I was crushing it as far as income comes.
So tell me a little bit more about that. You were doing 7 to 8, you were doing like 8, 9 deals a month early on. And then as it progressed through 2017, how many deals a month were you guys doing out there?
Easily 20 to 30.
20 to 30
Actually,
a month.
way more than that. I'd say we buy 3 to 4 properties a day at trustee sale and at 20 business days. So, probably 60, 80 a month. Like,
wow. And what kind of numbers were you hitting with that?
I'd say we average, where our net profit would run around 300 grand. So if you say 300 grand on, let's just say 60 properties, you're averaging net $5 grand a house on wholesale. You'd hit some for 12, you'd break even on 1. You're literally just buying at the courthouse, no driving pictures, no nothing, just, and
Right.
yeah, but if we consistently, you're putting cash out to pay for it the next business day, if it takes 2 or 3 days to sell, you're billing that as part of an interest cost. And so, but yeah, we consistently were doing like, that was just on the wholesale side. And then you got the hard money side and we were clicking away at 18%. That was what we were charging. Our line of credit was at 9. So, do the math on that. We were making 9 points on $80 million.
Wow.
Yeah. That's $7 million a year.
Wow.
On top of the $300,000 a month in wholesale fees.
Right.
It's,
and you guys were turning these wholesale deals were quick and you were closing them like a week or a few days, right?
Foreclosure, you get bid today in Arizona, you got to pay by next business day.
Next business day. So that's wild. It's not sitting in escrow for 30 days, 45 days. So you're not extending.
No.
And, yeah.
You're not extending. There is no back out. Your deposit is 10 grand. And that's probably why I think our team is so successful in the Phoenix market it's Guru Central, right? It's,
why is that?
I don't know how it, I think
and I love all those guys. I look up to all but
yeah. A lot of the guys, I was partners with at one point in time or another, like Brent Daniels used to office in the office I'm sitting in right now. I used to rent this office to him. So,
love it.
So yeah, it's just, part of the evolution. But I was willing to buy houses, $10,000 non-refundable. Here's my cashier's check at courthouse. So that's how we are. I think we comp well And when we compete against stuff on MLS or we're direct to seller, like I got into my mastermind just so I could learn this whole direct to seller marketing, mail, obviously texting was awesome for a while. Cold calling was awesome for a while. Those have obviously pulled back, PPC, just learning all the different marketing strategies, CRMs, all the stuff that goes with, building a direct to seller real estate business.
Totally. So that was after 2017, you started branching out, going direct
Yeah,
to
just
seller, MLS listings, agent referrals, JV deals, or co-wholesaling, all that stuff. You started opening up the floodgates for all that.
so we built like the only thing I came out of with 2007 was my database, right? So I still had the database. So yeah, I had the buyers. So obviously the buyers kept coming. I was still at every happy hour there was. I did a lunch and learn, I think 2 times a week. I'm like, hey, I'm Chris. I'm the foreclosure guy. I'll do a lunch and learn on how to buy foreclosures because there are floods of them coming, right? So I do a lunch and learn. I get everybody added to the database, and I just started a bid service because there were so many properties going. I'm like, hey, I'll do all the title work. I'll do all your drives. I'll do everything. I'll put up the $10,000. I'll set up the hard money, $1,500 a house.
Yeah. You were just doing it all
Yeah.
turnkey.
Yeah. Just like you sit back and bid on your foreclosures, whether you're adding it to your rental portfolio or you're a fix and flipper, I will take care of all the auction stuff. Our single biggest day at trustee sales was 27 houses purchased. So
Wow.
$270,000 in earnest money out in one day.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing.
It was a machine for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. I can see why you're so heavily regarded as one of the godfathers out there. Tell me more about what's your business look like now? I think you've achieved that ultimate goal of removing yourself from the day to day, it seems, and you have a team that's, I think, mostly family members. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you've built that team and how you were running it before versus where you're at now and how you got there?
So honestly, I wish I could say I was this awesome, cool, like manager, like built systems and teams. And it wasn't. I was scared to hire, like, I guess, employees because I'm like, I got my systems. I don't need to train the next guy to be my competitor, right? So I mean, I definitely had some partners along the way. Jamil being one of them. He was a partner for a little bit of that time. So I had that database post 2008. And I kept building it, still going to all the happy hours, doing all the lunch and learn. So continuing building the database. And then, with that, I started recruiting guys like Jamil, like, hey, I can dispo all the houses. You go get the houses. Same thing with Pace. You go get the houses. I'll dispo your houses for you. So I kind of, not just a trustee sale guy. I then was building the JV model. Brent Daniels, same thing. Brent was more like, I didn't send him out for him. I was just like, hey, I'll give you the free office space. I get to look first. That's it. That's all I want. You can have this office for free, but just like when you lock something up, you set the pricing. If I can buy it, I can buy it. If I don't, I don't. But that's the deal. But like, even if Brent had his own, dispo guy working on his deals, but like if he set the pricing and I liked it, I could buy it and I'd mark it up $5-7 grand and,
Yeah.
way better than rent.
100%. Yeah. So then you started training in-house, bringing in some family members to help.
Yeah. So my son graduating from you, when it's your own son, kind of took that like scarcity mindset a little bit. Like, hey, this is my son. So my son moved into the business. His kindergarten best friend is our dispo guy. So my daughter
Awesome.
graduated from AS. She went into the business just being a loan processor for the hard money company. And then she's like, hey, this sales is it's way more money than just processing loans, right? So she eventually moved into, now she's just an agent. So she doesn't work specifically for us, but, she lists all my properties. She's out there building her network and being an agent. And then my youngest is my personal assistant. She's working on our loan officer license. We don't really have a loan officer in the family. So that's, we get a lot of business from, in our network. So now we can hand those loans off to her and yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So how do you feel? This is a question I get a lot is why don't you become an agent? You're an agent. And it seems like, how much has that helped you think with all the lunch and learns and the meetups, like with networking and just being able to access deals in different ways. You feel like that's helped your career, kind of being able to be on both sides?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so, I still have a small education platform, nothing like some of these other guys, right? But, kind of my education process, it's real simple. Like, you're going to spend your time on a lead or your money on a lead. Just plain and simple. You're either going to network, you're going to cold call, you're a door knock, whatever you're going to do for your time to get leads in the door on deals that you can look at, or you're going to have a marketing budget, right? So with that, just like, and I think you're obviously part of the sub two community, lead comes in. Obviously, my first choice, because I'm a wholesale, is I want to wholesale that deal, right? So that's where my acquisition guys go in. That's the anchor, the wholesale deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that doesn't work for everybody. The 120 on the 200, not everybody likes that number. So then I move backwards from there, and then just basically my next move is to like a Novation. Hey, this is a way I can do a deal. I can still give you the entire hands-off experience. Instead of a 2-week close, it's like a 90-day close. I'm still going to handle everything for you. You're not doing any repairs. You're not paying any agents. I'm just going to do it all. We're a professional team. We understand the contracts. We read them daily. We're good negotiators. You sit back and relax. We'll handle this in 90 days for you.
Right.
And that's like the 150 on the 200. And then obviously like I owe 180. And then the next question right after that is, okay, what's your interest rate? Because I could pay 180 on 200 if I can get some terms. So that's the next conversation. So it's literally, those are the tools. And then the last tool is just like, you hear stuff like, I need to maximize. This is my only asset. This is my only savings. You start hearing that stuff and it's like, hey, the way to get the most money is just to take it to the MLS. Like, you got a nice clean house here. You're not going to love my wholesale offer, because my wholesale, even on a clean house, it's like still going to be 70 cents on the dollar, right? I'm taking it down, So yeah, then it's just, and then that's the process. Lead comes in, wholesale, novation, subject to, list, or, if you just don't like us, we'll leave that.
You pretty much check all the boxes for them. You can list it for them too. So
yeah, we kind of go in there. Hey, we understand all the tools. We have them all. We do this this is what we do. We're not agents that just throw the house up. We understand repairs. We understand contracts. We understand negotiations. We'll even, like, if we get the novation, we'll have one of our guys go like, okay, here comes the Binzer. Here's a $6,700 worth of Binzer item. We don't really want to put the money into the property. We'll immediately go, hey, your bill is $6,700. Why don't we just give you $8,000 on title at close? Little bonus for you, the buyer.
Mm-hmm. And with your novations, are you doing repairs on all those, or are you just going flat fee MLS and going that route? Or
the novation route, we try to just credit at close. When we get the list of, they come through the inspection, we'll go through, I'll send my contractor by, like, it's $6,700 in repairs. We'll just be like, hey, we'll credit you $8,000 at close. I'd rather just not put the money out. Like, here.
You can pay the seller a little more though.
Yeah.
And you can get a little more for it going that route.
Yeah.
I love
and then
that
I don't have any risk, because I'm not like, I know there are people out there doing the repairs, but then there's risk there of, hey, you put out the 6,700 and then the seller's like, oh, cool, I just got all my house stuff on my house fixed.
Right.
People are in this situation because, like, we all understand we're not all the same. Right. So the people that are making these calls, that are needing to move fast, or in foreclosure, whatever the situation is, there's a reason they're calling us.
Absolutely. It's not always the best reason.
Yeah. So, that's why I like them making wholesaling illegal in South Carolina. Like, our industry serves a purpose. I wholesaled 2 in July. One was, unfortunately, murder-suicide. Obviously not optimal. People, the carpet's cut out in the house. People don't really want to walk through this with their agent. And another one was just, I don't know exactly cause of death, but the person passed away, and the dog skeleton is right there and the cat skeleton is right there. because the guy passed away, he can't feed his pets. And obviously he doesn't have like a lot of close family. And when you're walking the house, there's the animals decomposing right there in the living room. Like you can't really, oh, this has to go through an agent. That doesn't
Right.
really work either.
Right. No, it works great for the perfect white picket fence home that goes full retail, or you're in a market like Santa Cruz County where everyone pays over asking no matter what it
Yeah.
looks like. But I think the majority of the country, there's a lot of properties that don't fall into that category. And I think on the investment side, there's a lot of problems we can come in, a lot of value we bring in the transaction with structuring deals, like you said, multiple different ways, knowing how to do those, how to underwrite comp and put a deal together that maybe couldn't go retail.
There's obviously the motivation factor is obviously the number one key that you have to figure out. If there's motivation there, then you kind of have like your two choices, like your wholesale deal. And if you can't get to your wholesale deal, you can probably get maybe to a subject due deal if there's motivation, because leaving the mortgage in place is not everybody's like first choice, right? Like it's not like, oh yeah, I'll leave my mortgage in place. But if there's motivation, then like, hey, there's a solution here and we can still do it in 2 weeks. I'm just going to need some terms along with that. And we can handle that. We can close this in 2 weeks, no problem. But,
Yeah,
if they have more time or there's more time involved, so less motivation. And then it's, list or novation based on, everybody that talks about novations. Well, why don't they just list? I'm not them. Some people just want to sit back, relax. They like the fact that we handle everything for them. And like, they're just chilling out, waiting for us to, send the cash.
totally.
So
So tell me a little bit more about what's your sales process like within your team? What are the different lead channels you guys are working and some of that stuff?
yeah, so we do some stuff in-house. We do some PPC, we do some mail, we obviously JV a ton. So that is kind of all the source number one. Now, how I grow my business is I don't necessarily want to have 10 acquisition guys and a bunch of cold callers. So I actually I probably have 3, 4, I have 5 other acquisition guys that are solopreneurs. And they have like one guy has a $7,000 budget a month. And so he's running his own advertising, his own CRM. He's his own acquisition manager. And I put up the $7,000. I get the first $7,000 back in the door. And then we 50-50. I'm the dispo app piece. And we 50-50 split all the deals.
And is this out in Phoenix or Florida or nationwide?
I got guys in both spots. So
Awesome.
I have one guy that's strictly just an MLS guy, and we 50-50 split. I mean, he might be 24, maybe he's 24, 25. I mean, he did $700,000 last year just off MLS.
Wow.
I mean, but he's a hustler. Like he's not just sending the contract. He's picking up the phone. He's doing the follow-up. He's calling the next day. Like, hey, how does my contract compare to everybody else's? Like anything that the seller needs that I need to change? Like not just I'm submitting the contract and waiting to see if I win. He's on it. Like
He's working it.
yeah.
You're helping fund marketing dollars and helping fund EMD for those contracts.
Oh,
Awesome. Yeah. I mean,
but
why
once
not?
again, I was like, I was putting up $10,000 like 27 times in one day, right? So like, having these guys run around and be like, yeah, I'll put up 2,500 on this one, or I like the deal. It looks like a deal. And then we have inspection periods on most of these deals too. So every now and then, like if it's an MLS deal and like this is a steal, it's like 5,000 non-refundable, no inspection. We're good. We see the pictures on MLS, like pick us, but sometimes agents just misprice stuff and we're just like, yes, we'll take it. So
how many deals are you doing now a year, and what percentage of those deals are coming from the different lead sources?
So we did 402 in 2023. We did 442 in 2022.
Wow.
So, we were off, 2023, we were off 10%. I haven't looked at our numbers this year. I would say we're off a little bit this year too. I mean, we're still cruising along. I mean, I had I told the team on January, like 2024 election year, interest rates, I don't see them going anywhere. They're still trying to, correct inflation. I mean, this whole like 6 mortgage rate drops in 2020. Never, not what I never, when that article came out, I was like, it's not going to happen. Won't happen.
So you're doing 1 to 2 deals a day almost.
Yeah. If you figure like, you know, what is it? It's like 260 business days, right?
Mhm.
We're doing over a deal a day for sure.
Over a deal a day. And what's the average assignment fee on those?
I'd say we're probably in that around 6, 5 to 6.
It's incredible. It's a ton of volume. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's if I do 30 deals at 6 grand, I mean, net revenue, it's like 180,000.
And how many of those are like JV deals versus direct to seller versus foreclosures?
I'd say direct to seller and JV are probably 50-50. But when I'm saying direct to seller, it's not just me. My team may only bring in like in-house team
Mhm.
may only bring in like 4 to 5, right? And then the other teams that I finance with just the marketing dollars, right? And the earnest money, each one of those solopreneur guys might bring in, let's call it 2, but there's 5 of them, right?
Mhm.
So maybe on our team brings in 3 to 5, and then all the rest of the guys bring in, call it 2 each. There's 15 that are, call it, direct to seller, like truly direct to seller deals that are coming through our system. And then the other 15 or whatever the number ends up being, are probably JAV deals.
That's awesome. And it shows you the power of networking and building relationships, not trying to do everything yourself, but saying, hey, I can work with him. I can work with him. And you expand that reach. And now you got a bunch of people working with you, not clones necessarily, but other solopreneurs bringing deals in. And you're
Yeah.
providing a ton of value funding EMD and helping them with marketing spend. And it's awesome.
Yeah. Marketing spend, dispo. I mean, arguably, I know there's investor lift out there. I think our dispo list in Phoenix is better than an investor list. We're consistently moving property. So, creating all those relationships and networks has definitely helped our business. And I mean, we're still here fighting the fight, doing 30 to 40 deals a month, depending on the month, and in the arguably most competitive market.
Yeah, it's incredible. So tell me about that buyers list a little bit. Do you send out an email blast or do you have certain buyers for each deal or how does that work? I'm assuming you have good relationships with most of them personally
It's
or
Yeah, I mean, we have our regular buyers for sure that text us like, "Hey, we'll take it." But we don't have like this, concierge service. Like, I mean, I have like 11,000 people on the buyers list. Like, I can't be like, "Hey, Brayden, I'll hold this one for you." Like, I can't keep track of all that. There's
right.
11,000 people. My email opens are at like 3,000 people open my email. I'm like,
Wow.
how am I supposed to like handle that? Right.
It's incredible.
So it just all goes out on the email list. If someone says, like, my friend's like, "Hey, I need this zip code for my mom," I'll do my best to watch for it, but like,
Right.
I can't just like keep track of everybody's requests. So
Totally. So where are you at now? So you're doing I know you do some high ticket coaching and seems like you're doing some traveling and enjoying life. So where are you at? Do you have any current goals going on in your personal life or business?
I'm just cruising along. Obviously, we're still just a wholesaler. We still have a hard money fund. We manage around 60 million bucks. So, I'm a licensed banker. So that obviously helps with closing deals. We can commit to deals and pay for the deals. I didn't ever do, all the guys building sub 2 portfolios and rental portfolios and all that. That just isn't something I ever did. Now I do own like 10 properties, but I don't have this massive like portfolio, but I did build a hard money company over these years. So I get passive income. I loan out money between 12 and 13%. I pay investors 10%. So I make that yield spread. I also get a $700 to $900 fee. So I get a fee up front for, doing all the paperwork, driving the property, doing all the due diligence, setting up the package. And so, I had 2 streams of income. I just started another, I don't know if you know Corey Boatwright. We started another company. It's called Takedown Funding we're in South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Arizona. But like, they just made wholesaling illegal in South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So you got a own the property before you advertise it. So we created this company called Takedown Funding. Like we've done, I think, 2 transactions. Like this guy got a deal in Oklahoma for 95. It was worth 160. He could throw it up on MLS easy, and he did for 135. So he closed it at 95. He put it up at 135. I think he took a contract at 121 on like day 2, closing in like 30 days. And we paid for it. He came out of pocket with $1,000 setup fee, 1 month's interest. You have to pay the interest on the money, and an inspection fee. And, the gross profit is, I don't know, call it 20 grand. We charged him, we get 20% of the deal. So we get $4,000 for doing the deal, and he gets 16.
Nice.
So,
Yeah. And there's your loophole around the laws, and you can still help sellers. I'm sure it's actually hurting the sellers a bit, I would imagine.
yeah, I mean, they're not going to get, like, if you got to take it down, now you got to budget in the closing costs, any interest costs for your carry time. Like, it will probably take out the guy that's going to be like, hey, it's a 160. These guys want 110. I can't get there. Right.
Right.
At 95, it made sense for us. But, if he'd brought us the deal at 110, I'd have been like, this doesn't pencil for me. But,
Right.
It's,
Right.
but there's going to be less, I think, competition in that market. But I think what we do is we service that, someone takes somebody's class, right? Somebody's online course.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, wholesaling is the way to get in this deal without any money out of pocket. I can use my time. I can, well, if they find us, like, hey, you sign up a deal for 60 cents on the dollar, you sign up that 120 worth 200, like we talked about originally.
Mm-hmm.
We'll step in at that 120. It probably wholesales. We'll close it. Probably wholesales for, 140, and we get 20% of that deal. And it's just a very similar to me putting out the marketing dollars for these other guys. Hey, just bring us a deal.
Yeah.
We got the cash, and you still get to make the lion's share of the money. We're just your partner that helps you do the deal.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that's where you're at in your career, that you can help other people do that, which is sweet. And you also, obviously, you're going to know what a deal is.
Yeah. I mean, bought in lots of deals, so I know what to look for. So
Absolutely. It's amazing. So where can people follow you if people want to look up your coaching program, follow you on Instagram?
Chris_Eymann on Instagram. I still do the coaching a couple times a year online. I'm not really doing the high ticket coaching anymore. It's tough for me for the guys that pay for the high ticket coaching items and then they don't take action. I'm like, you pay me? Like, the $6,000 or $7,000 group coaching program, if they don't take action, that's kind of on them, I guess, a little bit. What does a college class cost these days?
Right.
What, $5,000 to $6,000,
Totally.
but the guy that pays me $30,000, it doesn't take action. Like, it bothers me. I don't sleep at night. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Right.
So
Yeah.
like, you paid me to get you going and get you in this business. And I'm like, did you do this? Did you do this? Why not? It doesn't really sit well with me. So I'm going to continue probably the group coaching plan. I do like 2 or 3 a year where you can hop on. It's like, I only take on like 5 to 7 guys. So you're not on this mass, like there's 5 or 7 guys. We build a little community. I sell it for like 6 to 7 grand. So it's like, 30 to 35 grand for the 2 hours a week that I'm setting for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I go through the whole thing. I go through marketing, what a novation is, what a subject to is, wholesale deals. Here's all your contracts, basically all that stuff.
So what's your biggest advice for someone just getting started? Maybe they haven't done their first deal and they learned about wholesaling on YouTube and they're just getting in. What would your advice be to that person?
Yeah, do your research. Obviously, take a guru's class. Don't spend the 30 or 50 grand. Get the $6,000 deal. Try to get someone that understands it all. Like, you went through the coaching program, but you need to understand it all. Like, you can find coaches out there. Just don't go learn subject to or novations. Like, there's specialized coaching, but there's also coaching that people that like understand it all. Like, there's marketing. Subject to is a great tool. It doesn't work for everybody. Like, if it's a 7% mortgage that someone signed up last year, that doesn't work. So, what a novation is. A novation is a great tool for, like, you get a lead that's kind of maybe in Santa Cruz, just kind of off the beaten path. It's not going to You don't got a whole lot of wholesale buyers out there, but you can, sign it up as a Novation, get it on MLS, which is going to bring the most eyeballs to it, right? So understanding that. So just make sure you find somebody, if you're going to get some coaching, that understands all the processes, and then take some action. Do a deal. Like, even if you just buy from a wholesaler, just do a deal and see what it looks like.
Reverse engineer how that deal was done, the numbers, everything. Get to
Yeah,
go through escrow, learn about transaction court. There's so much to learn in the process.
Yeah.
Right?
When you do it and you see what stuff actually costs, that's when you really learn.
Yeah. And it's just like anything, you get out of what you put into, and nothing worth doing is easy. And wholesaling and real estate in general, it's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole. So there's a ton to learn. I've only been in this a fraction of the time you have. And I feel like just in the last couple of years, we've exponentially grown. And it's funny because when you were talking about you have 10 rentals, I think myself included, and like most people, they think I want to get into real estate. I'm going to buy rentals, and then eventually I'll just retire and go kick it on the beach in Florida and live off my passive income. I'm not sure that truly exists, because really nothing's extremely passive with rentals. And then you got the stove that breaks, or the HVAC, or the tree falls on the roof, or the property goes vacant, or COVID, or World War III, or whatever. And so I actually am a firm believer, like in kind of what Jerry Norton preaches and what you've been talking about, is building that active income within real estate. Then go and buy real estate to offset your taxes, scale consciously. That makes a lot more sense to me now. That's where we're at in our investing approach. So
it's just like, my active income is, my wholesale deals. My passive income is my hard money. Now, I still have some big Airbnbs that give me some passive income. Actually just sold one, did a combo where I took the $500,000 married tax credit and the 1031 exchange, was able to pull out some cash for myself personally, and then 1031 the rest of it. I got a steal of a house. I got to wait till February to sell it. And then I think I'm going to venture into buying like 200 mobile home spaces. But, the house that I sold that was an Airbnb, I kept that because I built it in 2007. It was worth $2 million. I was in it 180 or 1.8, but I was like, I had a lot of cash in it. So when the price went down, I'm like, can't sell it here. So it just took some time. But when it came back, now I ended up selling it for almost $3 million, but I was able to hold it and not sell it at the downturn. So, and that's how I got into Airbnb way before everybody else. Was like, I can't afford this house, but like, how do I keep it? And then I was like, good thing about Phoenix is people come to the golf tournament, the baseball players come into town. And I had this concierge service that would just fill it for me before VRBO was like the first website online that I could go to after that Airbnb popped up. But I was doing it when I was doing on Craigslist.
It's crazy. Yeah. And the whole Airbnb thing, that's how we got started, was with short-term rentals. And now we're seeing this massive opportunity with creative deals in the short-term rental space. A lot of people jumped in, paid too much, over renovated. They're not cash flowing and they need out. They want out. They can't sell it. They're sitting on the MLS for over 100 days. And so that's where we've been focusing our niche on some of the creative deals, and it's been helping solve problems.
Totally. Because you have the efficiencies to run your Airbnb company better than they do, right?
Yep.
You understand the processes and the systems and how you need to decorate it. And I mean, Airbnb is a whole nother rabbit hole, right? But you understand that. And so you can look at it and go, yeah, this is a deal. And with the right kind of financing, it works even better.
And there's buyers that they're looking for that too, because there's a lot of investors who still want in, but they're like, I need something that makes sense. So we're like, hey, we bring those to them, create that white glove. Hey, we're experienced enough to know, hey, this is now a deal. We've structured it for you. We can assign this to you as a wholesale deal, and you can take it and fulfill your dreams of scaling your portfolio during this period where I've heard you say this before, but this is just normal now, right?
Yeah,
with
it's
rates
just normal.
and everything. Yeah. They're not that high compared to back in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, the seasonality, like everybody forgets, like, hey, I know that the super low rates got rid of seasonality. Everybody's like, just buy. Well, now you have to understand when markets go up, like in Phoenix, the spring, kids go back to school. Right now, kids are back in school. I can tell you right now that, transactions are slowing, and I don't expect any transactions, even if they do drop the rates in September. You might see a little uptick. You got president almost assassinated. You got a new president coming on the ticket. People are scared. They're not going to just go, I'm going to go buy a house with the highest rates in almost like 10 years and the highest prices in 10 years. Let me go buy.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Weird time we're in, huh? Been a crazy
Yeah.
year. But
So
awesome, Chris. I don't want to take up your whole day, but I'm super grateful you came on here. This is super fun to chat. I hope we can do it again in
yeah,
the future. And
thanks for having me on. Always fun.
absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully come out and drop in Florida one of these days. Maybe check out your
Or,
boat.
yeah, shoot out to the Bahamas too. Got a place there.
That'd be awesome. And so, yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And you guys give Chris a follow, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.